help?
And we had a little bit of a run-in with tigers. Tigers?
No. It wasn't a run-in. The tigers, they were having a race, and Emily thought that they were chasing her.
Well, they were behind me. Oh, I must be really fast.
Yeah, so fast. It had nothing to do with the way she kept like singing, and then I was trying to teach them to react to certain commands when people do certain things. They were just having a race.
Should I join the Olympics? I should try out for the Olympics, right?
You should. Yeah, I think you should start training for the Olympics. Yeah, that's an excellent idea.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, I'm gonna get healthy. I'm gonna be so fast. I think this is me. I think this is the thing I've been looking for. You know, like what defines me? I think an Olympic runner.
Yeah, and you probably have to save your breath so for sports, so probably like no more singing or anything like that.
Oh.
Yeah, it's a great idea. Become an Olympic runner. I like it. I'll play Chariots of Fire for you. Or I'll play it for you outside so I don't have to hear it.
Oh. Well, that's
just you're welcome.
Thank you. Thank you very much. What would I do without you?
Yeah, I don't know. Probably not become an Olympic runner. Probably.
You've left me with a lot to think about.
Yeah. So while Emily's thinking over there, we'll talk about the next set of books that we're going to talk about, and it's good because we got 4. It's a set. It's a dystology, whatever you want to call it, that we're speaking about. Dystology.
That's what I want to call it. You said whatever we want to call it.
Okay, you could call it that, and I'll just call it dystology. And so it's going to we'll have a lot to talk about while Emily's still thinking, and we'll see if she comes up, what her conclusions are. So we're speaking about the Unwind dystology, which is by Neal Shusterman. And we've already spoken about the Arc of a Scythe from him. Please refer back to episode number 2. This is a really solid series. Dystology. Dystology. So the ratings actually came out higher than I thought they would, because so many of these things are not, the story is just so much that these things don't really, I don't know, they just don't command as much attention as maybe they would in one that it's not like that. But, you know, it is what it is. We got violence out of 3, language out of 3, and romance out of 3. Because there's like, it's kind of intimated, it's implied kind of that the 2 of the characters sleep together, but there's no details about it or anything like that. So we'll go into those ratings for a second, but just to give you a general idea of what the books are about. The main theme is, let's say you have pro-life individuals and pro-choice individuals had a massive civil war. And what resulted from it was this treaty that allows for parents to unwind their children. So Unwind is this new technology where every single part of a person can be transplanted and reused and be given to somebody else. So let's say if parents have this child that they don't want to deal with anymore, so anyone between the ages of 13 and 17, parent decides, okay, this kid is too much for me. They could sign off to have the kid unwound, and basically science will distribute their parts to other people. So if someone needs a new ear, they could get a new ear. If someone needs a new arm, they could get a new arm. And all these different things. Now, the only side effect is that all the parts do have memories of their previous body, which is something that kind of comes in. But the main idea is what would happen if these two sides, like this is the compromise that they come up with. So also the story is going to center around this handful of teens. Okay, a lot of teens, but our main characters are these 3 teens that we're following. And each one is trying to run away from being unwound. So you have the main guy who's Connor. He becomes the actor on AWOL because his parents signed up for him to be unwound, and he, on the way, traffic jam, this, that, whatever, he gets out of the car and he runs. Then you have Risa Ward, and she calls Ward because she's a ward of the state, and because she's not talented enough, she plays piano, but she's not talented enough. So she's going to be unwinded. And then you have Levi, I think is the 3rd one, and he's part of this like very religious sort of family. They don't really define. They kind of say that there's like a father. I don't know if they call him a priest, but he is father whoever who runs like the religion. They don't specify what the religion is, and he's going to be tithed. So from birth, it's like, wow, you are going to be when you come of age. So I think it's like 12. When you come of age, you are going to be unwound, and it's going to, you are tithed that we're like giving up for the greater good. So he's kind of been indoctrinated since birth that it's like this great merit that he has to be unwinded. Right? So that's the basics of that. Emily, what do you have to say about things?
Well, this book, like the other Neal Shusterman Arc of a Scythe that we already talked about, again, refer to episode 2. Actually, side note, refer to all of our episodes. Listen to them maybe daily. Just if you need some sanity in your life. But it really makes you think not just about, I actually didn't think quite as much about, what happens when pro-choice and pro-life fight and what would the treaty be. By the way, I don't know if you said it specifically, but the treaty, because people can be unwound between the ages of 13 and 17, part of the treaty was, but there can't be abortions at, before a baby is born.
Oh, right, we didn't say that. They could be storked instead, yes.
Yes. Can you explain to our listeners what storked is?
Oh, yeah, so that's a good point. So because of the treaty, there's no such thing as an abortion anymore. Instead, if a parent doesn't want to have, if a parent now, the mother now gives birth to a child, they can stork them, which means they can leave them on somebody's doorstep. And that person has to take care of the child, which is kind of a crazy thing that he throws in over there, because then you also have, like, there's this one family that has been storked like not 15 times, exaggerated, but like multiple times. And so I was like, why do they keep choosing our house for these babies? But that's the basic. That's the basic idea. Okay.
Yeah, thank you. And that also deals with one of the, I guess, issues that people might come up with when they say, well, if you don't allow abortion, what about babies that are born unwanted, and then or to parents who don't have the capacity to take care of them, whether financially or emotionally or whatever way. And he sort of presents an answer and saying, well, it's like adoption, except you're sort of forced to take care of the baby, as opposed to adoption, you get the choice. Anyway, so all of that's really interesting, but what interested me the most was this idea that, like, what is life? It's just so crazy to me that some of these teen young adult novels can get down to something as essential as what is life. Like, if science has progressed to the point where literally your fingernails, and your skin can go to another person. And by the way, when you're unwound, you're not, I don't even think you're put under anesthesia, if I remember correctly. Or maybe anesthesia, but
they lull them somehow. Yeah,
you're not under. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? Because you have to be alive. The point is,
there's a level of consciousness, because they kind of feel parts of themselves, because they also divide up the brain. Like, that's the last part that they do, is they take each part of the brain also.
Yeah, which I don't know if we had specifically that. Maybe that falls under violence, but it doesn't get graphic, but it gets descriptive in one of the characters being unwound, and I found that, like, it made my skin crawl.
Yeah.
When I read it. Well, so that can be a little tricky for some readers. It might. You
do have, like, the bounty hunter who's going around with his guns and stuff, and you do have the clappers, who are kids who put, like, explosive powders in themselves, and they go to these camps where the kids wait to be unwound, and because they're trying to bring down the system, they go and they clap and they blow up the whole place. So that is kind of on a violence scale. It's not gory violence, but it does get a little descriptive, and it is there. Language is a 3. I think there's some S words in there. And then romance we said already. And so the one thing I was thinking about a lot, especially from Connor, because Connor is kind of the quote unquote, like, screw up. The kid who's always getting into trouble, and his parents are just so exasperated with him, they don't know what to do anymore. And then through this, you obviously, not obviously, but you see Connor kind of come through. He takes charge of things. He looks out for people, and you see that he's not that bad of a kid, really. Mm-hmm. And part of what this brings up, think about, you have these deeper topics for teens to think about is, second chances. Just because someone's a massive troublemaker as a teen doesn't mean they're not going to turn into, a stable adult. Or
right.
Just because someone's going through a streak as a teen, or maybe they're figuring themselves as a teen, doesn't mean they're not going to come through and be a good person afterward. And you're not giving the kid a chance to become a good person if you unwind them. So what if that really was the solution, that 3 strikes and you're out? You don't have a chance now for a second chance, per se. Because you can say, oh, you had a second and third chance. Yeah, but you're still 15, 16, 17 when you have those chances. So unless some kids will pull through, but some kids they're still teenagers. So their version of pulling through doesn't always cut it. But when they're going to be 21, 22, 23, 27, 30, then they'll realize that pulling through means something else, and hopefully, they'll step up. There's a lot of people who didn't had rocky beginnings until they actually, got it right, till they got it, till they found themselves. And this takes away that chance for a person to find themselves. So it's also an interesting thing to think about.
And it's when you read it, it seems so far-fetched. Like, oh, what, because a kid is 16 or 15 and he's like getting bad grade and he's being defiant, his parents are, I know the word kill isn't what's used in the book, but from our perspective, like, they're going to kill him, they're going to get rid of him. But it does make you realize, okay, we wouldn't do that to someone who's between the ages of 13 and 17, and hopefully older, by the way, who's made, depending upon the mistake, who's still trying to sort things out. So if we're not going to unwind someone like that, how much more so can we, just show a little patience and grace to people who, especially like, doesn't your brain not develop until
25?
And for men, it's like 50 or never 50. Or something like that.
Yeah, so. That's the car rentals. I think it's 25 for that. But and it's also Neal Shusterman does a good job jumping between POVs. If you don't like to be jump between POVs, this might not be your thing, but through jumping to all these different POVs and showing us all these different people, not just the main characters, but also having moments in other characters' heads, it does allow us to see the different viewpoints of this issue. Because there is, let's say someone is dying and all they need is another, kidney. So if a kid is being unwinded, he can now have that kid's kidney. So now this kid's life is saved. So is there a point of like, no, they're just such trouble, it's better if we kind of recycle them and give them to people who will live better lives? The answer is no. But Neal Shusterman doesn't really he doesn't give us the answer, because he's, we're following the kids in their fight. We should go back for a second. Part of also the ratings is they end up in this kind of I don't know, kind of like a refugee camp kind of in the what's it called, the plain graveyard thing. And one of the kids there, he's kind of a tougher, he's got like a nasty side to him, and he starts a storking club. So it's kids who have been storked that have run away now because they didn't want to be unwound or whatever, and he starts this exclusive club for them. And Connor doesn't really see it coming, that this undermining of authority, because he's a little bit too trusting, and this kid's really manipulative. And one of the things that he does is he decides he impregnates girls, because he's making this basically nation, I guess we'll call it. So that there's no details on it, but it is, we know exactly that it's there. He's basically like a cult almost when he starts. He gets all the storks part of his cult almost, and they think he's it. And this idea of having all these girls, impregnating these young girls, I mean, they're teenagers, but they all want to be the mother of his baby kind of thing. So you have that also. So there are dark parts to it, but I think the biggest,
but like you said, because there's so much else going on and the characters are so full, and the things that it makes you think about, right to life versus right to choose, and second chances and things like that, all of the things that normally make us clutch our pearls are dwarfed and don't come to the forefront like they might in a less well-rounded or less well-written novel.
We did still clutch our pearls, though. Definitely still clutch the pearls, though.
Definitely. You definitely keep those pearls close by when you're reading this series. Yeah, but it's the best thing to say about it is that there is definitely mature stuff in it. Definitely would not recommend for younger readers, but it does make you think, and that's always, we're kind of easily swayed sometimes by books that make us think, because that's what we want. Not just like another contemporary romance, which sometimes it's just about the escape and the fun and not about the thinking. So, and this was also our first introduction to Neal Shusterman. He has other books before this, but this was our first introduction. It was a good introduction to him. So it was. I think I read these. It had been a while since I'd read YA that I really had gotten into, because I read a lot of YA when I myself was YA, but now I guess I'm not Y, but I'm not an old A. I'm a like MA, like mid adult.
No, anyway. You just could fall into the general A category.
Oh, that's so boring.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, I rediscovered these when I was already just an A, and it had been a while since I'd read YA, and these books reminded me why YA is where some of the best literature is right now, or at least for a while was, because it seemed like a lot of adult novels, not that there aren't really good ones, but young adults sort of seemed like they wanted to touch some subjects in ways that adult novels didn't, or maybe I just wasn't finding the right adult novels. Anyway, it's very good, even if you are an A, to read this YA novel.
Even though some parents kind of got like uncomfortable if I would tell them about the series, they're like, I'm not reading about that. And it's like, look, it's just making you think. And they don't want to think about stuff like that. Like, no, I want to think about unwinding children.
Yeah. I guess if you call it doesn't, I don't know if anyone calls it science fiction, but if you think of it like science fiction, maybe that makes a little bit, because it basically is science fiction, because that science doesn't exist. Yeah. So it is a world where science is at a different place than it is now. Like,
right, or I don't know if it's like some sort of dystopian, utopian something or other. Yeah, but there's definitely a lot of stuff going on, a lot of different kinds of characters, a lot of different elements at play. It's definitely very richly done.
Yeah, and even sorry.
No, yeah, I was just gonna say, it definitely makes you think, which we keep saying. So yeah.
Yes, and the solution to. Because, okay, there's this war, now there's this treaty, but clearly just because there's a treaty doesn't always mean things are peachy keen. I refer you to the Treaty of Versailles. So, there's still, obviously, there's a problem, and the teens are trying to fight back against it. And the ultimate solution for it, which I don't want to give away. Oh My Word podcast is brought to you by Pearl Clutching Basement Dwellers at Oh My Word.
Follow us on Instagram for updates at Oh My Word podcast, or like and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. For full episode notes and details, visit eltenenbaum.com. Music is by Tim Burke. Sound is by Gabriel Yaffe. See you next time.
Yes. So, anyway, I guess you really could call it science fiction. Maybe that would make people more comfortable with it.
No, I don't know.
Because Anyway.
Look at the designation. Figure it out, people.
Yes. But as long as you know to call it a dystology or dystology. We're not picky about how you pronounce that Y.
Yeah, especially not Emily, because she's just going to be winded now from all of her sprints that she has to do now, right? Because you're still training to be a runner or something, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I just need to first practice on reaching my toes. I'm not very limber.
No, that's for gymnasts. Don't stop confusing the sports, Emily.
Oh.
Yeah, okay. It's okay. It's okay. It's totally okay.
There's just so much to learn. I think I'm going to go look up fast runners. Yeah, I'm going to do some research. And the best shoes to wear.
Yeah, excellent idea. Excellent idea.
Not heels, right? We're going not heels?
Yeah, probably not. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'm going to go do that. I'll let you know how it goes.
Uh-huh. Okay. I'm just going to go back to racing with tigers.
Okay. I'll see everyone later. Thank you for listening.
Cheers, everyone.
Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode of Oh My Word. We hope you enjoyed it. If you did, make sure to subscribe and write a review. And please share the show with your friends. If you didn't like it, you can share the show with your enemies. Please also follow us on Instagram at Oh My Word Podcast. There we post episode updates, our ratings for each book, and also our personal reading recommendations. Music for the show is by Tim Burke. Editor is Gabriel Yaffe. We'll see you next week.